lost the ability to speak, and wheelchair. It was really a very grim thing, and maybe some of us have been through, be it strokes or anything else that's really debilitating. You know how difficult that could be. Well, what I found is at that point, boy, were sports a great diversion for us. He loved watching those games. I mentioned before about a friend of mine who's a retired professor, 79 years old. He lives up in Marquette, by the way, in the Upper Peninsula. We were going to visit him, a good friend of mine. And I remember, like when the Indians play at night, he gets them on the dish, he goes, "Oh, why have a game tonight? Are you pitching, you know?" He hates Chris Perez, so I wait to see the email from every time Perez blows a game, here it comes. So I know that's, when I get home, that will be there. But the point being, you know, he looks forward to that. Well, of course, when you're really dealing with, you know, whether you're dealing with cancer or strokes or whatever it is, the fact that there are teams around, if nothing else to complain about, I think is a really important thing. I mean, it really is, because, you know, when we're sitting there, after a while, it became very apparent my dad was not going to be able to walk. He was not going to be able to talk. He was not going to be able, frankly, to even cut up his food. You know, he could only use one hand. He was not going to be. It was easier to make a list of what he was not going to be able to do than what he could do. But he could watch the games. And we could, even though his conversation was so limited, I could tell, "Oh, Dad, remember we went to the..." Like, for example, one of my memories was the first player whose autograph I ever got was Mudcat Grant, who pitched for the old Indians in the 60s, early 60s. And I remember it was the last day of the season, and my dad and I are walking out of the park, and here comes Grant by himself, and he's got a suitcase in one hand and like a bag that you'll put your suit coats in another, and he's walking out. My dad goes, "That's Mudcat Grant, go get his autograph." You know, and I got the little scorecard. So I go up and shaking, you know, "Mr. Grant, can I have your autograph?" He puts down the bag, he puts the thing down. "What's your name, little man?" You know, Terry, he signs it and goes back. So I told him about that. Of course, remembered that. No, again, it was not a great story. I told Mudcat Grant that story. I said, "I'm sure you remember it too." He goes, "Oh yeah, I remember it." Although Mudcat Grant said, he goes, "But I do remember when the Indians traded me to the Twins right before the game. I showed up in the Indians locker room. They sent me right across the hallway. They were playing the Twins because they needed to save, they were $20,000 short on their payroll for that next 2 weeks coming up, and they were getting rid of me for some minor leaguer you never heard of and something else." And so, but the point being, isn't it amazing how those stories are remembered?